not containing the cement.
Alrighty guys, this one's a bit different. This is roughly 8,400 square feet of asphalt grindings. We resurfaced the main driveway with a single fines-induced Type 2 slurry seal for $6,000. And no, I'm not going to tell you this is the same thing as 3 inches of brand new asphalt. It's not, but there's a reason why I was comfortable going this light on this particular driveway. When I first came out here, the grindings were actually pretty damn good, and anywhere the vehicles normally drove straight in and out, the grindings were actually packed pretty tight. In some of those areas, they were mostly behaving like pavement already, and you can see where I have some close-ups, and like right there, I put my hand down at the ground. You can see it's really firm. Where you could really tell the difference was in the turnaround areas. Anywhere people were backing up, turning the steering wheel, making 3-point turns, stuff like that, you can still move some of the material around, and that makes sense. Straight traffic mostly pushes down. When you turn, the tires twist and shear the surface, so those areas naturally become looser. But overall, I felt like we already had a pretty solid foundation to work with. That's important. Slurry seal does not magically turn a bad base into a good base. What's underneath still matters. Now, normally if someone tells me, Carlos, build me your heavier system over grindings, I'm doing quite a bit more than what we did right here. I'd usually start with a Type 3. Type 3 has coarser aggregate, roughly up to like 3/8 of an inch. I'll normally lay that first Type 3 course around 5/8 of an inch before compaction. Then while that material is still workable, I like broadcasting some additional aggregate on top, kind of like a chip seal. After that, we'll roll and compact the first course. That 5/8 of an inch, we're looking at roughly 1/2 inch compacted as like a 1/2 inch compacted base layer. Then I'll come back over that with a finer Type 1 or Type 2 finish course. That finish layer might go down 3/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch or so, just depending on what we're doing, and settle down to roughly 1/4 inch. And I normally don't roll that final layer. I want the finished course to keep that nicer texture, and regular traffic can continue matting it down over time. That's basically my heavier 2-layer system. But that wasn't really what this customer needed or wanted to spend. For one, his existing grindings were actually in pretty good shape. And number two, the heavier 2-layer system simply wasn't in the budget. So instead, we went with one fines-induced Type 2 slurry seal application. We laid roughly a 1/4 inch wearing layer over the existing compacted grindings. And I want to be clear about that. This is not 3/4 of an inch of my heavier system. It's not 3 inches of asphalt. It's a lighter system over a base that was already doing most of the structural work. The goal here was to bind up the upper surface together, fill some of the open texture, and create a hardened asphalt and aggregate wearing surface over what was already there. The customer was already willing to stay off of it for a few weeks and give everything plenty of time to cure before using it. That made me a lot more comfortable with doing the lighter system here. And this is what the installation looks like. Even though we went lighter, this is still like an actual Type 2 slurry seal. We've got rubberized emulsion, 1/4 inch graded aggregate, crumb rubber, structural fibers, polymers, Portland cement, fines, and other performance additives all mixed together on site. So we're not just spraying something black over the grindings. We're squeegeeing actual asphalt binder and rock aggregate across the surface and creating a new wearing layer. On the heavily compacted areas, we're basically just resurfacing something that was already close to pavement. On the looser turnaround areas, the slurry has a little more work to do because that upper portion underneath isn't as tightly seated. Again, that's why the base matters in my opinion. Then the customer decided to add another 1,800 square feet to the entrance, and I'll be completely straightforward with that section. We went extremely light. In some places, it was probably around 1/8 of an inch. It was thin enough that you could literally see the tops of some of the 1/4 inch aggregate sticking through the material. That section was another $500. And I'm not going to pretend I rebuilt another 1,800 square feet of pavement for $500. The goal there was mainly to get some fresh binder and aggregate over the existing surface and make the entrance look uniform with everything else. As long as everyone understands exactly what they're buying, there's nothing wrong with doing a lighter layer application for just appearance purposes. So the main 8,400 square foot grindings driveway was $6,000. The additional 1,800 square foot entrance was another $500. So the total project was $6,500. Now, would 3 inches of hot mix asphalt be stronger? Obviously. If someone has the budget and wants the strongest possible pavement section, I'm going to tell them to pave it. I'm not trying to sell slurry as something it's not, but completely paving more than 10,000 square feet and doing what we did here are obviously two completely different price categories. The customer already owned a pretty good compacted foundation, so instead of of throwing that away and starting from zero, we used what was already working. And honestly, this is something that I recommend to people who don't necessarily have the budget to do the ultimate system on day one. You don't always have to do everything at once. If you already have a good foundation underneath you, start with what makes sense. Get that first wearing layer down, drive on it, let it do its job, then years down the road, when it's time for maintenance, repair whatever isolated areas actually moved and put another compatible slurry seal layer on top. Then later, do it again. Now obviously, I'm not saying 4 1/4-inch slurry seal applications magically become 4 inches of hot mix asphalt. That's not how pavement works. The surface wears, compacts, moves, and changes with traffic. But every maintenance cycle can continue adding asphalt binder and aggregate and renewing that wearing surface instead of just starting from zero every single time. That's what I mean when I talk about stacking layers. And this is actually what I did at my personal ranch, at my own ranch, except I went the heavier way. Originally, I had an old asphalt running down the middle. Along the sides there had dirt, grass, and just a bunch of unpaved areas. We removed all the vegetation, dug out what needed to come out, brought in base rock, graded and compacted everything, and tied those new areas into the existing asphalt. Then I installed a heavier Type 3 slurry course, broadcasted additional aggregate onto that layer, and rolled and compacted the whole thing. After that, we capped everything with a finer Type 1 finish layer, and that driveway has handled some serious traffic. We've had 10-wheelers, super dumps, transfer trucks, lowboys, F550s, F650s, F750s, trailers, heavy equipment, and garbage truck doing this fucking 5 million point turns into my driveway, which I'll show you some videos of that. And it's actually held up really well. Now I could probably make an entire video breaking down exactly how I built my driveway, how it's worn, what I would change, and what I'm gonna do for maintenance on the next layer. So I'm not gonna turn this video into that one. That'll be its own video for one day. But that's really the whole point. If the foundation is good, you don't always have to throw everything away and start over. Start with what makes sense for the budget. Maintain it, repair what actually moves, and keep building from there. Now we have a continuous asphalt and aggregate wearing surface across the whole driveway. Is it permanent? No. Is it the same as 3 inches of asphalt? No. Will it eventually need maintenance? Of course. But for what this customer already had, what he wanted to spend, and what he wanted the driveway to accomplish, I think the system made a lot of sense. Every job is different. Look at what you already have, look at the base, look at the traffic, look at the budget, and build a system around that. This customer already had a good foundation. We just gave him a new surface to build from. And when the time comes to maintain it again, we don't necessarily have to start over. We can just keep building from here. This wasn't a shortcut, it was a maintenance strategy. We kept a good foundation the customer had already paid for, added a real asphalt and aggregate wearing surface, and gave him something he can continue building on. And this is exactly what I did on my own driveway. I understood from the beginning that I wasn't installing 5 to 6 inches of hot mix asphalt, which is what someone would recommend with my kind of insanely heavy traffic. I was choosing a system that made sense for the foundation I already had, with the plan of maintaining it and adding compatible layers over time. That's the same transparency I give every customer who chooses this exact route. They understand exactly what the system is designed to do, what its limitations are, and what the long-term maintenance plan is. I always put it in the plan. It's not permanent because no pavement system is, but when this driveway eventually needs maintenance, we won't be starting from zero. We can repair what moved and add the next compatible layer and keep building from there. Don't throw away a good foundation just because the top looks rough. Build off of what already works.